Welcome everybody. My name is Walt Marchbanks. I'm the customer programs and services manager. It's a bit of a mouthful. With the Port of Portland, my pronouns are he, him, and his. And we're coming to you live from the Port of Portland headquarters building where masks are now optional. So excited about that. Now, it's hard to believe that our first virtual event, our first pivot was 1 year ago. 2 years ago today. So April of 2020, we went all virtual. And then a year ago, we went to this hybrid model where we were in the space, socially distanced, but wearing masks. So very exciting to see that we're sort of transitioning through all this. The pandemic is still very much underway. We want to thank our public health partners for all their guidance through the process. But this event is really special. It's intended to celebrate our customer service superstars, that really the best of the best at the airport. And it's a great opportunity to share some of the stories that we've received over the past quarter. Once a quarter, each of the 9 industries that we have represented at the airport are recognized at these events. So for those of you who haven't attended this event before, here's what we're going to go through. So first of all, we've got a great presentation from our Director of Research, Tim Quayle, and our Air Service Development Manager, Rick Aizawa. And then, most importantly, afterwards, we're going to be hosting the awards portion of the event. If you're joining us from home, please be sure to drop us a like or share a comment on the feed with your friends and loved ones. We're actively monitoring the comments in the feed as well. So if you have questions for our presenters, please send those over and then we'll get those answered. And we're really here to show some love for our customer service superstars. So let's give them all a round of applause, first and foremost. Yeah, all right. So I think you're really going to enjoy this presentation that we have today because I'm sure, much like all of you or like many of you, the whole process of deciding which markets that get served to different airports is a little nebulous. And it's also interesting, to think about how we conduct research at the airport and how do we survey passengers and learn more about our passengers. And it probably won't surprise any of you that those two processes are intertwined. Hey, Augie. Hi. So today we've got a really great and thoughtful discussion that features our Director of Air Service Development, our Director of Research, Tim Quayle, and Rick Aizawa, our Air Service Development Manager, who are going to be giving you some insights into all of that. So first and foremost, Tim Quayle. So Tim is our Director of Research at the port and oversees a team responsible for delivering analytics and business intelligence across the organization. On his journey to the port, Tim spent over 10 years leading and supporting the execution of research, analysis, and enterprise business intelligence solutions for several organizations in the public and private sectors. For 7 of those years, he served as the manager of performance and analytics at the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency, one of the nation's largest public transit agencies. And Rick Aizawa is a Portland native and has been with the port for 29 years. I was telling Rick earlier that I have a newspaper that has Rick's photo on it from when we introduced Wi-Fi to the airport. So I know. So Rick is a long timer, and in his current role with Air Service Development, his focus is to recruit and retain transoceanic passenger service, excluding the UK, and also air cargo. And Rick's going to talk about the status of current flights as well as potential markets that we might see in the future. So after we have presentations from each of them, I'm going to invite them up to the front. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask those. We'll also field some questions from online. So without any further ado, come on up, Tim.
Thank you all for having me. I don't think I've ever seen a photo of myself blown up to that size on the screen before. So how does it feel, Rick? Okay, so I am here to share some information gleaned from our most recent survey. And I will go to the next slide here. So we periodically perform survey activities at PDX. I have been with the organization here at the Port of Portland for a little over a year. And for 25 or so, maybe more years, we have always conducted surveys in person at the terminals over the course of all of the traveling seasons. COVID happened in 2020, and we stopped surveying in person. So when I arrived toward the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, we hadn't done any surveying for over a year, and we needed a new, quick, easy, COVID-safe approach for gathering useful feedback from our customers, travelers, and terminal users. So I want to thank Rick for bringing Wi-Fi to PDX because we partnered with Travel Oregon, our state destination marketing organization, to develop a Wi-Fi based survey approach to gather critical information about travelers coming through the airport. Now, Travel Oregon is conducting a year-long visitor profile study, and the goal of that is really to understand who the out-of-state visitors are coming into Oregon, also who some of the domestic visitors traveling from one place in Oregon to another are. And the goal is really to just understand who those folks are, what their demographics are, what their motivations, preferences, behaviors are over the course of travel. So we worked with Travel Oregon and their consultant, along with our internal digital communications team, to develop a really useful and innovative Wi-Fi based approach to capturing survey data from our customers. So anyone who's been in the airport and used our free Wi-Fi network knows that you sign on, you have to click OK to accept some terms of service, and then you're connected to the internet. So we developed a methodology that prompts users, once they click OK, to accept those terms of service with a short survey. And this traveler profile survey was conducted really across 3 channels. One was a national survey that did not involve PDX, a panel of visitors to Oregon. Another one was to all of the different destination marketing organizations owned audiences. So think of like Travel Portland as one of those organizations. They have an email list. They emailed a survey questionnaire out to their list. And then this last one was the Wi-Fi survey at PDX that I mentioned. So we collected data starting at the end of December of 2021. We didn't actually get to the airport version of the survey until about mid-February, and we collected data for a little over 2 weeks at the airport. The data is treated and weighted based on what we know about the different volumes of visitors traveling to each Oregon region. So I'm going to share just a couple of insights from this survey. There were over 50 questions in the survey, and it would take an hour to get through all of them. So I'm just going to cover like 4 or 5 of them. If you want to see the full results, you can go to Travel Oregon's YouTube channel and see a video presentation from the governor's tourism conference this past March that contains all the full results. So let's take a look at just some high-level stats on our profile of recent visitors. So one of the first questions in the survey just asks, where are you coming from? And what we see on the slide here is a breakdown of the respondents in PDX and how they answered. And then the table to the right there is showing us the PDX results compared to the other 2 channels, that partner-owned audiences survey, as well as that national online panel that was conducted. And just for a little clarification, for all of the PDX travelers who took the survey, we excluded those who said they lived in Oregon from the opportunity to take the survey. So you see 0% of PDX respondents said Oregon because we didn't allow them to take the survey. But as you can see, a vast majority of a plurality of our visitors coming from out of state are coming from other Western states. And so California has always been our biggest market of travelers, domestic travelers within the U.S. Idaho, that one is actually a little bit bigger than it normally would be, but you can see, a good half of all, or half of, or more of all visitors are coming from other Western states. That's not necessarily the case for all visitors, as you can see from the total visitor column in the table there. Looking at our age demographics, on average, PDX travelers are about 46 years old, or 47 years old, according to this recent round of survey data. You can see it's actually pretty evenly distributed across all of these age groups, with a pretty small number of really young passengers. And just for clarification, we did exclude the opportunity to take the survey from 18 folks who are under the age of 18. But as you can see in these results, the PDX traveling public actually skews a little bit younger than the overall traveling public, according to the other visitor profile survey channels. Why are people traveling? So this one's really interesting, and I have to offer the results with the caveat here. We asked the respondents, what was the primary purpose of your trip? And we gave them a couple of options: vacation, leisure, visiting friends and family, traveling for business or other personal reasons, combination of business and leisure, special events, attending convention. And you can see the breakdown of PDX travelers compared with these other survey channels. And what you see here is a much smaller proportion of PDX travelers traveling for vacation or leisure. So according to this recent round of survey data collection, something like 26% of travelers signaled that they were traveling for vacation or leisure versus almost 55% of the total visitors coming to Oregon. Also, there's a pretty large share of business travelers, according to this survey. 28.8% of PDX travelers are signifying that they're traveling for business. Now, I want to offer this with a caveat. This survey at the airport was only offered to non-Oregon residents. So what we're seeing in the data is actually interesting because overall, a smaller proportion of travelers through PDX are traveling for business. Business travel is actually down across the United States. Some of the largest anchor institutions and companies in the Oregon region, especially in the Portland region, like Intel, Columbia, Nike, they're only beginning to resume some of their travel. They have not yet reached the travel levels that they had prior to the pandemic. That said, predominantly out-of-state traveler demographic is more business focused than the total traveler demographic at the port or at PDX, because only about half of all travelers who flow through Portland International Airport are actually local. So we're seeing a larger share of out-of-state business travelers versus a smaller share of in-state business travelers, according to the statistic. Okay, that was my last interesting fact. I think the overall takeaways are that, in general, based on the survey results, our traveler profile and our traveler demographic hasn't changed a lot since before the pandemic. We just have fewer travelers coming through the airport right now. That said, the trends are heading in the right direction, and we hope to see close to full recovery this year. Okay.
All right, thanks, Tim. Next, we're going to turn things over to Rick.
Oops. Let me get adjusted here. Sorry, Walt. I hope I don't mess up your technology.
No. Let me help you out. Just
All right.
That out of the way.
All right. Thank you.
Perfect.
Are you saying that I'm short?
No.
Yeah. All right. Great. Well, I'm really pleased to be here today. I sincerely appreciate and recognize all the people in the PDX People Program. It's what you do every single day that makes my job that much easier when it comes to recruiting and retaining air service. And, it's not just us that recognizes it, it's the airlines that we meet with. They know that we have an outstanding program. In fact, I might just say that, I'm sorry, Walt, that we kick butt. We kick butt in customer service. When we meet with these airlines, they know if they drop an airplane in Portland, that their airline and their passengers are going to be held to a great standard here in Portland in terms of outstanding customer service. And it's because of what you guys do every single day. So thank you so much for what you do. All right, I'm going to go into the agenda. And what I'm going to do is walk you quickly through the changes in passenger traffic volumes over the past several years, talk about some of the places we fly to, as well as what we might be looking forward to in terms of air service. And then I'm going to finally touch on why I believe air service recruitment is important to this region and to this airport. So if you didn't get enough numbers from Tim, I'm really sorry. I have a lot of numbers on my slides as well. We're going to kill you with data. But what I don't want you to do is actually look at all the data. What I want you to do is just focus in on the bold text. In 2019, we had this tremendous year. We were crushing it here at PDX with traffic flow, traffic volumes coming through our airport. Going up to Canada, it was an all-time high of traffic volumes from PDX to Canada. Across the Atlantic, we had all-time high numbers of Portland to Europe and beyond. Going down to Mexico, we had all-time highs in Q2 2019, and across the Pacific, 20-year high in Q2 2019. So we had this tremendous momentum building behind us, and we were looking at 2020 and going, we're going to have a phenomenal, phenomenal year. And then what happened? The pandemic. Yeah. So again, a lot of data on this slide, but what this chart is pointing out, it's a visual representation of travelers through PDX over time. The blue line represents the number of passengers per month, but I really want to bring your attention to the pandemic low there in April 2020. That obviously was the bottom of the pandemic and affected everyone. And this is where our tremendous journey of climbing out of this trough, climbing out to try to get back to where we were in 2019 has been. So how do we look now? At PDX, just last week, I saw some numbers. We're 85% in April of pre-pandemic traffic volumes. We're starting to get out of this trough. I mean, we're moving in the right direction. And then last week also, we had our second highest passenger volumes going through TSA checkpoint for this year. Our spring break was our highest passenger volumes since pre-pandemic levels. So we're moving in the right direction, and we're, I think we should all feel proud that we're getting there. It's going to take a little bit more time, but we are getting there. This next slide is really what this map really represents. It's our network, all the nonstop flights that we have coming up for summer 2022 from Portland domestically and internationally. But what I really want to mention here is this looked a little bit different in 2019. We actually gained 6 new markets since 2019, and we have not had 8 markets come back since 2019. But in terms of air service development, we are focused on those 8 markets and trying to bring them back to PDX because we want those markets served again. And this is our international network from PDX. These are all the international flights that we have from Portland. This looked a lot different 7 years ago. 7 years ago, we had 4 international flights, nonstop flights, 3 passenger and 1 cargo. Fast forward to 2019, we had 13 nonstop international flights, a huge jump from 4. Fast forward to 2022, we'll welcome our newest flight to Incheon Airport. That will be our 14th market that we serve. So we are very excited for this year, for 2022. And it gets great starting next week, because starting next week, we have Delta Amsterdam coming back. We have a robust transatlantic schedule coming back. Amsterdam's coming back on Delta next week. The week after that, Iceland Air comes back. Condor Airlines comes back. And then in June 3rd, PDX will welcome our newest airline, British Airways, to Portland. They'll fly from Portland to London Heathrow, and we're super excited for that airline to come into our marketplace. Oh, and then in late fall, we anticipate the Pacific to come back with flights we're in the schedule right now for Delta Incheon service, that's Seoul, Korea, and also Tokyo, Japan service. Just a little piece on that, the Asia demand is lagging lagging to the transatlantic demand. So we do anticipate that. That's why it's been pushed out a little bit further. When we look at markets to serve, we look at markets obviously that we don't have flights to, and these are some of our top markets where we do not have nonstop flights to, and these are the ones that we are targeting for 22 and 23 on the domestic side. So in terms of, for example, Long Beach has 120,561 passengers, origin destination passengers between the markets. We look at that data. We work very closely with our air service development consultant, Campbell Hill Aviation, and we talk a lot about. We analyze this data and other types of data, but we talk a lot about how do we best approach these markets, what airlines would best serve these markets, and that have the aircraft available to serve these markets. And then we analyze that data, we build a strong business case, and then we go out and we find the airlines and try to get appointments with them to pitch service essentially. And that's what we intend to do in 2022 and 2023. And hopefully we're very successful in getting more flights here because it's important for us to bring more flights back to market. And then finally, why is air service development? Why do I think that this is important for the airport? Well, it's critically important for the port, and it's critically important for PDX, because when you bring in new flights, what happens? More passengers come through the terminal, and that's really important for businesses. It supports the businesses that are at PDX. It supports all of us in this room. It supports jobs. Air service is also can have a huge impact to the economic impact to the region. And if you look at a wide body international flight, transoceanic flight, you know, that could bring in 50, 75, $100 million of economic impact to this region. That's business revenue, that's jobs, et cetera. So it's important for us to retain and recruit these services that we have here at PDX. And then lastly, the more flights that we have through PDX, what it does is the more flights you have through our airport, it spreads the overall cost around. So it brings down the PDX unit costs. And that's really good for the airlines that are here, but also when we're out trying to recruit new services, it brings the overall airport cost down, which makes it more attractive to serve here. You certainly don't want to be the highest cost airport out there because you wouldn't get a lot of air service unless you're a big market. The last 2.5 years for us in air service development, a lot of our meetings, we stay in contact with airlines constantly, but we've been doing this a lot over video conferencing, MS Teams, Zoom. I for one, am tired of video conferencing. I can't wait to get back in person, but we're starting to get back in person, meeting these airlines. We've been to a few conferences, meeting the airlines, and starting this next month, we'll be back on the road. We'll be back at the airline headquarters and starting to make those pitches to these airlines to try to gain new service. So the future at PDX looks bright. We have a gorgeous terminal coming up here in 2024 with a renovation of PDX Next. We have more air service coming down the road. That means more passengers coming through. So we think that really our future does look bright. So to everybody in this room and people that are working at the airport, thank you for all the great work that you do in making this airport the best in the US. And to the award recipients and to the nominees, congratulations. Thanks, Wolf.
All right, at this point, Rick, you want to hang out up front, and then Tim, come on up. For just a few minutes, we thought we would provide an opportunity to grill these guys and ask them questions, the things that you've always been curious about. Maybe they didn't explicitly address it in their presentation. Does anyone have any specific questions? Val.
Yeah, for Tim. So the surveys, did that delve into the construction, and was that a part of, you know, people's perceptions, both negatively or positively, how that's going?
We did indeed ask a construction impacts question in the survey of all travelers, and we were actually really excited to see that a large share of respondents, over 70%, either were not impacted or didn't even honestly notice that there was construction taking place at the airport. And so that was really encouraging to us, and I think that speaks to a lot of the great work that we've done to try to mitigate those construction impacts and ensure that we have the right messaging in place to get folks where they need to go.
All right. Anyone else? Somebody's got to ask Rick a question. Otherwise, I'm going to ask Rick a question. Yeah, Augie.
I mean, I was just curious, the 8 markets that had left PDX in 2020, what do you think is what would be the impetus in getting them back? Like, are they looking for just like more passengers to service, or like what are they looking for at PDX that would make them come back to us?
Great question. It's not only for these 8 markets, it's probably for markets that, or frequencies that we've lost as well, or markets that we're trying to recruit. Some of this is an industry-wide problem. It's crew shortages. A lot of the airlines just can't find the crew to get back flying their planes, to being on their planes. It is business travel, as Tim mentioned. Business travel hasn't come back, which has impacted some of these key markets that we used to serve. And then on the flip side of that, it's the leisure. Leisure has been really driving a lot of these new services, new markets. So it's the leisure markets that are really kind of winning right now, where the airlines are deploying, or they have been deploying their aircraft into those leisure markets, whether it be Florida or other sun destinations. But great question. Caitlin. No, you can't ask a question.
Thanks, Walt. For all of our friends over on the e-concourse that are here, any insight into Southwest and what's going on with them, because they've been really slow to return, and I know that they've had similar issues you just talked about to the other airlines, but they seem to be lagging from other airlines. So I'm just wondering if you have any insight on that.
My quick response, no. No. I handle most of the transoceanic business and also the cargo, but my colleague, she stays very close to Southwest Airlines, and it's very much the same issues that I just mentioned. It's the crew shortages that they've been facing with. It's unfortunate, and I wish I had a better answer, but I think a lot of that is the answer.
Good. That's a good question, though. That's a really
Yeah.
good question. All right. Any final questions that we have from a group? I haven't seen anything from our social media manager as far as getting anything from online viewers or listeners. So with that, I guess we'll give these folks a nice round of applause. Thank you very much, Rick and Tim. Appreciate you both. All right. So now we have officially reached the awards portion of today's program, which is super exciting. So as many of you know, the PDX People program has a grassroots advisory council. It's our working committee. And I have a number of those working committee members that are here today that I'm going to invite to the front of the room. They're going to read the customer service stories that we've got, or at least most of them. I'll take the last one. But we also have a couple other working committee members who have joined us today who aren't going to be speaking stories. So I'd really like to thank Carol Cummings with American. I'd like to thank Augie Ribello with Tender Loving Empire, Fran Becker, thank you, and Naomi Eckstein, Miranda Terry. I'd like to also thank Jill McPherson for joining us today. So if I could have the working committee members join me at the front of the room, please. Once we call your name, we'd like you to come to the front of the room. Our working committee members who aren't reading stories will all kind of hang out in the front and elbow bump or say hello. We've got a lovely award certificate for you, and I've got a gift card that we'll make sure that we get to you before we adjourn. And also, just for those of you who have joined us in person, we have lunch waiting outside the room as well. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Naomi. Oh, excuse me. Augie's doing it. All right. Augie's here. Hey, all right. All right. Sounds good. We're so glad you're here, Augie. All right. Sounds great. All right. That's okay.
Oh,
Been there, done that. Yeah, exactly. All right. Great. So without any further ado, Augie, just press spacebar to advance, and we'll go ahead and kick things off.
Thanks, Walt. Hi, guys. My name is Augie Ribello. I am the general manager at Tender Loving Empire. My pronouns are he, him. Super excited to be here. First award is going to go to... Let's see. Oh, spacebar, you said. Emily Burka with Southwest Airlines. This nomination came to us from a passenger. I'm terrible with names, but I believe her name is Emily. She was working the baggage claim area at Southwest and really impressed me with her kindness. A passenger irritated that the luggage was taking a while to come out was clearly taking her frustrations out on Emily. Throughout the interaction, Emily was extremely polite, calm, professional as she tried to help the upset passenger. I was amazed with how she managed to maintain her friendly and helpful composure. I would like to thank her and let her know that her hard work did not go unnoticed. Congratulations, Emily.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention as well that we're going to try to do a group photo at the end as well. So
Perfect.
Yeah. All right.
Next award goes to it goes to a duo, Phil Kudelka and Stephen Bradshaw from Conrack Solutions. And the person wrote, on the second day of operations at the new rental car centers, the elevators went out of service. Phil and Stephen jumped into action, helping take care of all the travelers with heavy luggage who were unfortunately forced to use the stairs. Both Phil and Steve got a great workout that day. Phil even took a passenger in a wheelchair from the first floor all the way up the auto ramp to the fourth floor and over to the P2 elevators to the terminal. So thank you and congratulations, y'all. Oh, I forgot to advance. Sorry, y'all.
I don't know who's next. Don't hand it to me. Oh, we get photos of everybody.
Yeah, look at that. We got photos. All right.
Yep.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Francesca Becker with the TSA, and my pronouns are she, her, and I'm recognizing David Capella with the TSA today. So this one came from a delighted passenger. It said, I wanted to leave a comment about Mr. Capella. He was an absolute delight during the security process. I know it's not easy, and I'm sure people can make the job frustrating, to say the least. He was very friendly and had a great attitude. On a recent trip, I was traveling with my leopard gecko, and after interacting with him, I thought, wow, this guy is great. Today, when I saw him again, I was thrilled. Once again, he had a great attitude, and a person behind me commented how friendly he was. I'll always fly out on Sundays from now on if that means I get to deal with Mr. Capella. He's such a cool person, and you're very lucky to have him. Please pass this on to him and let him know that he's very appreciated. And David couldn't be here today, but we'll give him a round of applause just for good measure. Right? All right, next up with concessions, food, and beverage, we have Brett Latimer. Yay! There it is. As Brett was bringing up supplies from the Moe's storage room, he noticed a very pregnant lady carrying 2 suitcases. He could see that she was struggling, so he offered to let her put his bags on his cart. Brett walked her to her destination and pushed her luggage for her so she could rest. He returned to the restaurant and he made sure she was at her gate. Huge shout out to Brett for being an example to his team and being an observant, friendly, and respectful PDX employee. Great job, Brett. That's so nice.
Hi guys, my name's Miranda. I'm human resource for SP Plus, who handles all the parking needs for the Portland Airport. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Stephanie Lewis. She's from Travel, Oregon. Yeah, come on up here, Stephanie. So Stephanie Lewis, a family from California stopped at the Travel Oregon Welcome Center in baggage claim, seeking some trip inspiration. When Stephanie offered their child a kids activity booklet, he was not responsive. The mother explained that her son is a child with autism, to which Stephanie rejoiced. We have something just for you. Stephanie gave them a sunflower lanyard and a sensory kit explaining their purposes to the parents. They were delighted with the items and surprised that they had never heard of the sunflower lanyard program before, especially as the mother works extensively with children with disabilities. Stephanie also let the family know about the sensory room on Concourse D, which they were excited to visit on their trip home. The Port of Portland providing thoughtful, inclusive, and forward-thinking programs to PDX is so important, as is friendly, knowledgeable, and respectful employees like Stephanie. Bringing these programs to life for our visitors. It is a great example of the awesome teamwork that takes place at PDX each day.
All right.
Make sure to tell Stephanie.
I will. Yeah, she's on vacation this week, so I'll make sure
We appreciate you too, Thank you, Erin.
Hey,
Stephanie.
Stephanie, if you're watching from home. Yeah.
All right, Jeff, you're up. Jeff is from SP Plus Corporation. Come on up, Jeff.
Come on, Jeff.
A thankful passenger sent in this message. Late on Friday night, we arrived at our flight, got to the economy parking lot, and realized we didn't remember where we had parked our car. Happens all the time, honestly. We pressed the emergency button in the bus shelter, and within minutes, Jeff with SP Plus showed up in a white pickup. He was incredibly courteous, quickly loaded our suitcases, and drove us around until we located our vehicle. Instead of being distraught, we were delighted. Jeff was polite, professional, and a credit to your organization. Many, many thanks for his assistance.
Great job, Jeff.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jill McPherson. I work for the Port of Portland, and my pronouns are she, her. I have the privilege of working with the volunteer group every day. So I would like to introduce Jan and Tim Misley. Thank you. A family with a toddler stopped by the South Information booth for help locating the pickup area and requested assistance in Spanish. Jan and Tim used the language line, a translation service, to communicate to the family and with the family. During the conversation, they discovered that the family was not only confused about where they were being picked up, they were actually in the wrong state altogether. It turns out a relative had purchased the tickets for them and was quite shocked to learn that there are 2 Portland airports. After explaining that getting to Portland, Maine is going to take a little longer than and feasible by bus or car, Jan and Tim worked on how to get the travelers to their correct destination. Jan went to the Delta ticket counter and was given a Delta phone number to call. And after about an hour and a half of phone conversations, Jan connected with an agent who was sympathetic to the family's plight and rebooked for the travelers for later on that evening at no cost. Jan and Tim got the family some snacks and some diapers and walked them to the security checkpoint for their flight. These 2 volunteers asked all the right questions. They were knowledgeable, they advocated, and they persevered and went the extra mile to make sure the passengers were able to get to their intended destination. I'd also like to add that from start to finish, Jan and Tim worked with this family for approximately 3 total hours. Wow. Let's give them a round of applause. I also have the privilege of working with the customer service team here at the port, ABM. And next up in the support services category is Junior Granville. Please come up. A passenger sent this message in. It was nearly 4:30 a.m. and my husband and I had about 15 minutes until our departure to start our honeymoon. We were too late to check our bag, so we quickly started to stuff as much as we could into our carry-on bags. Oh. This left us with empty suitcases, and we weren't quite sure what to do. Junior noticed that we were frantic and asked what was going on. We explained the situation to him, and he listened to our needs. It was a relief that someone was around to help. Sadly, we did end up missing our plane, and it was going to be 8 hours until our next flight. However, Junior was kind enough to meet up with us, show us the sensory room, and make our 8-hour stay more comfortable. It was so kind of him to go above and beyond to help us. He really turned the day around. And now it's a fun story to tell everyone about how our honeymoon started. We are so thankful that Junior made this very unpleasant situation something that we can now look back on and smile about. He is the best, and I would agree.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
And
All right. So I get the honor of reading the last award. So Raina, come on up. Thank you. So I like to call this the It Takes a Village Award because, oftentimes we find ourselves in situations where we have to work across industries to ultimately solve a passenger dilemma. And this is a really great story where Raina and some members of our ops team really went above and beyond to help out. So I'm going to go ahead and read the story. This came in from a thankful passenger as well. After arriving in Portland, we discovered that our bags had not arrived with us. They were delayed in New York, and it took a few days of talking to our airline before we received the call that the bags were in Portland and ready to be picked up. I drove up from Eugene, but upon arrival at the airport, I was disheartened to learn that it would be nearly 4 hours before an airport representative would be able to release my baggage. And that's when I connected with ABM employee Raina Babcock. Raina went way above and beyond to assist me getting my baggage. She contacted Port of Portland operations specialist Natalie Summerlin to assist, along with Natalie's supervisor, Sean Michael, who's actually the acting duty manager today and couldn't be here. But they worked together to locate my luggage. After verifying the bags were mine, I was able to take my luggage home just an hour later. Raina stayed with me the entire time. She was knowledgeable, professional, and courteous, as were Natalie and Sean. My daughter's medication and school laptop were in her bag, and it was a huge relief to get those items back. I was very impressed and appreciative of all the service I received, and I just wanted to let them know, and their supervisors know, and now the entire world know, of course, how wonderful Raina, Natalie, and Sean were for all they do. So thank you so much, Raina. Here, let me grab your award. And I will say that this, in my time in the program, I've been overseeing the program for about 5 years. This was the largest number of nominations this quarter that we have ever received. Yes, we had over 40 nominations. So there's a lot of folks who were nominated and ultimately were not selected, but are still going to be receiving some recognition from me this week. So just wanted to say thank you so much, especially to all of our award winners and the working committee members who are here today. So thank you all so much for joining. If you're an award winner, I'd like you to hang out if it's okay. We can get a quick group photo, and then I'll make sure that we get you your gift cards, and then we'll get everybody on their way to a lovely lunch catered by Evergreens, which is located on Concourse E. And if you've not been to Evergreens before, in here, you're here for a treat because we've got some of their best signature salads, and I think you're really going to love them. And if you've never tried Evergreens before, I strongly encourage you to try them out. So that's my selfless plug for Evergreens. I don't work for them, by the way. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate everybody for joining us here and at home, and thank you all very much for your continued support of the program. We really appreciate you all. Let's give everyone a round of applause.